This show is part of One Place, a daily network of focused briefings across the stories people follow most.
Welcome to the briefing. We have a heavy slate today covering major national security shifts, a significant passing in Washington, and travel disruptions affecting millions. Let's get right into the headlines.
Trump sparks outrage with comments on Robert Mueller's death.
The Iran war enters its fourth week with uncertainty.
Former FBI Chief Robert Mueller dies at age 81.
President Trump faces a crossroads regarding military options in Iran.
Democrats condemn the president's response to Mueller's passing.
Spring break travelers face massive lines at major airports.
Colleagues remember Mueller's long legacy of public service.
Trump threatens to deploy ICE agents to airport security.
Tracing Mueller's journey from the Marines to special counsel,
Police release body cam footage of Justin Timberlake's arrest.
First, the reaction to Mueller.
President Donald Trump has provided a remarkably blunt and heartless response to the news that former FBI Director and Special Prosecutor Robert Mueller passed away this Saturday at the age of 81. Writing on Truth Social, Trump stated quite clearly that he was glad Mueller was dead, claiming that the former special counsel can no longer hurt innocent people. This reaction stems from the years of tension during the investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 election, where Mueller became a primary target for the president and his MAGA base, despite the investigation's complex conclusion.
It is a striking moment because Mueller had actually been diagnosed with Parkinson's disease back in 2021, a detail his family shared last August. While the Mueller investigation did uncover numerous contacts between the Trump campaign and the Russian government, Mueller famously declined to charge Trump with obstruction of justice. He noted at the time that while there was sufficient evidence, he was prohibited from charging a sitting president. Despite this outcome, which essentially let Trump off the hook legally, the president has continued his attacks, even pivoting to threats about sending ICE officers to airports shortly after his comments on Mueller.
Now to the Middle East.
The war in Iran has now entered its fourth week, and there is still no clear end in sight for the conflict. President Trump mentioned on Friday that the administration is considering winding down military efforts, but the reality on the ground seems much more active. The Israeli military reported striking targets in Tehran early Saturday, and both the U.S. and Israel claim to have total air dominance. According to the Department of Defense, Iranian missile and drone attacks have dropped by 90% since the start of the war, which has led to a shift in the types of aircraft being used.
The economic impact is also staggering, with the Trump administration temporarily lifting some oil sanctions to help stabilize a disrupted global market. Currently, over 3,000 vessels are stranded in the Middle East because the Strait of Hormuz is essentially a parking lot for ships, while the U.S. is now using Apache helicopters and A-10 Warthogs to target small Iranian boats. The conflict is expanding in unexpected ways. Britain recently reported that Iran attempted a missile strike on the joint U.S.-UK base at Diego Garcia in the Indian Ocean. Although the strike failed, it proves Iran has a much longer reach than previously thought.
Next, more on Mueller's legacy.
Robert Mueller's death at 81 marks the end of a career that defined much of the early 21st century's legal and political landscape. His family confirmed he passed away Friday night, though a specific cause of death hasn't been officially released. Mueller is perhaps best known to the general public for his role as special counsel, but his tenure as FBI director was historic. He took over the bureau just 1 week before the September 11th attacks, and is widely credited with transforming the agency into a modern counterterrorism force. He served under both George W. Bush and Barack Obama, showing a rare bipartisan longevity.
The tributes coming in from former presidents highlight the respect he commanded in Washington. George W. Bush praised Mueller for protecting the homeland during a time of immense crisis, while Barack Obama called him one of the finest directors in the history of the FBI. Even James Comey, whose firing actually triggered the special counsel investigation, called Mueller a great American and a person of the greatest integrity. He leaves behind his wife of nearly 60 years, Anne, along with 2 daughters and 3 grandchildren. His life began in 1944, leading him from Princeton to the Marines in Vietnam before his long legal career.
Now, back to the war.
President Trump currently finds himself at a crossroads as the U.S. weighs increasingly tough options regarding Iran. While he has publicly stated that the war is very complete and winding down, the military reality tells a different story. New American ground forces, including a Marine Expeditionary Unit, are currently moving into the region. This creates a state of mixed messages where the president's social media posts often contradict the actions of the Pentagon. Trump has recently threatened to escalate the conflict by targeting Iranian power plants if the Strait of Hormuz isn't fully opened within a very tight 48-hour window.
Interestingly, Trump's latest list of military objectives does not include regime change, which is a significant shift from his earlier demands for unconditional surrender. He seems focused on degrading Iran's military infrastructure and nuclear program while protecting regional allies. He has also argued that other nations should take more responsibility for securing the Strait of Hormuz, noting that the U.S. is a net exporter of energy. However, this view often ignores how global price fluctuations still hit American consumers at the pump. The situation remains fuzzy as the administration tries to balance military pressure with a desire to end the active combat phase of the operation.
Next, the political fallout.
Democratic lawmakers are absolutely unleashing on President Trump for his comments regarding Robert Mueller's death, calling the remarks both disgusting and insane. Representative Dan Goldman described Mueller as a true public servant and criticized the president for celebrating the death of someone who simply exposed efforts to influence the 2016 election. The backlash isn't just coming from politicians. Media personalities are also calling out the lack of presidential decorum. Many are pointing out the hypocrisy in the political sphere, asking how the reaction would differ if a Democrat had made similar comments about a deceased Republican figure. It has reignited a very fierce debate about national civility.
On the other side of the aisle, the reaction is split. While some of Trump's most ardent supporters are defending him by claiming Mueller spread destructive lies, other conservatives are joining the chorus of condemnation. Fox News analyst Brit Hume noted that there was absolutely no need for the president to say anything at all, suggesting that these types of comments drive people to hate him rather than just oppose him. The timing is also being criticized as Mueller's family had specifically asked for privacy just hours before the president made his post. It highlights the deep, unhealed divisions that the Mueller investigation left behind in the American psyche.
Now to the airports.
If you are planning to fly during this spring break season, you need to be prepared for some of the longest security lines in recent memory. The Department of Homeland Security is currently shut down because of a funding dispute in Congress, meaning TSA screeners are working without pay. We are seeing wait times reach 2 hours in major hubs like Atlanta and Houston. Some airports like Philadelphia have even been forced to close security checkpoints entirely because they simply don't have enough staff. Officials are advising travelers to arrive at least 3 hours before their flights to avoid missing their departures during this record-breaking travel period.
The staffing situation is becoming critical. Since the shutdown began in mid-February, over 300 TSA officers have quit, and many more are calling out sick because they can't afford the commute or childcare without a paycheck. About 50,000 essential workers missed their first full paychecks last week, and a second missed check could make the situation even worse. This labor shortage is hitting right as nearly 3 million people are projected to fly every single day. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy has warned that the system is under immense strain, and there is no immediate resolution in sight as negotiations between the White House and Congress remain stalled.
Next, more on Mueller.
Looking back at Robert Mueller's tenure at the FBI, it's clear he was a man who didn't shy away from tough assignments. He was known for being a just-the-facts leader who preferred white shirts and conservative ties, avoiding any unnecessary flair. His friends often joked that his disciplined nature made him seem like a drill sergeant. This discipline served him well when he had to pivot the entire FBI from a reactive crime-solving agency to a proactive counterterrorism unit. This was an enormous shock to the system for agents who were used to traditional investigations, but Mueller's leadership was essential in preventing further attacks on U.S. soil after 2001.
Mueller's background as a decorated Marine also defined his character. He earned a Bronze Star for rescuing a fellow Marine under fire in Vietnam, and received a Purple Heart after being shot during the war. This history of service made him an indispensable figure in Washington for decades. He ended up being the longest-serving FBI director since J. Edgar Hoover, a testament to the trust multiple administrations placed in him. Whether he was searching for survivors at the Twin Towers or sifting through thousands of leads on terror plots, Mueller remained committed to the rule of law. His colleagues remember him as a man of unwavering belief in American bedrock values.
Now, the ICE threat.
President Trump has escalated the tension over the DHS funding gap by threatening to send ICE agents into airports to handle security. He claims these agents will provide security like no one has ever seen before, including the immediate arrest of illegal immigrants found at the terminals. This move is intended to pressure Democrats into a funding deal, as they have currently declined to pass a bill without reforms to ICE's tactics. It is important to note that ICE agents are not specifically trained for airport security screening, which is a highly specialized task. This proposal has raised significant concerns about both airport safety and civil liberties.
The situation for current TSA workers is dire. Union officials report that many employees have bank accounts at zero or even in the negative. Some airports have resorted to collecting gift cards and food parcels just to help their staff survive while they work without pay. There is a growing sense of frustration among these federal employees, who see money being spent on military operations abroad while they can't afford basic necessities like food or daycare. Since ICE is funded through a different congressional mechanism, they haven't been affected by the shutdown, which is why the president is looking to them as a potential, albeit controversial, solution to the staffing crisis.
Next, Mueller's final act.
Robert Mueller's journey from prosecuting mob bosses to investigating a sitting president is a remarkable arc in American legal history. After his long tenure at the FBI, he had actually retired to private practice before being called back into public service by Rod Rosenstein. His role as special counsel was defined by a signature silence. He held no news conferences and made no public appearances during the 2-year inquiry. This created an aura of mystery and seriousness that matched the gravity of the investigation. Despite the constant political noise and personal attacks from the White House, Mueller and his team quietly brought criminal charges against several high-profile individuals.
His career was always about the mission, whether that was fighting the mob or preventing terrorism. He was so respected that President Obama actually asked him to stay on for 2 extra years beyond his original 10-year term, making him a rare figure who bridged the gap between very different administrations. His stern visage became a symbol of the Justice Department's independence for many, even as it made him a lightning rod for others. As we reflect on his 81 years, it's clear that his impact on the FBI and the Department of Justice will be studied by historians for a long time. He remained a taciturn, dedicated servant until the very end.
Finally, the Timberlake footage.
Police have finally released the body cam footage from Justin Timberlake's 2024 arrest for driving while intoxicated in the Hamptons. The pop star had initially fought to keep this video private, but a legal settlement with the village of Sag Harbor led to its release this Friday. The footage is quite extensive, totaling over 8 hours of video, from both the initial traffic stop and the time spent inside the police station. It shows the moment an officer pulled over Timberlake's BMW after seeing him veer into the wrong lane and blow through a stop sign. The interaction that follows has already started to go viral across social media platforms.
In the video, Timberlake appears visibly nervous and stumbles through several field sobriety tests. One of the most talked about moments is when he tries to explain to the officer that he is currently on a world tour, to which the officer seemingly has no idea who he is. Timberlake eventually pleaded guilty to a lesser charge, but the footage confirms the police report's description of him having bloodshot eyes and a strong smell of alcohol. He declined to take a breathalyzer test at the scene, telling officers that the physical tests were actually really hard to perform. It's a rare, unvarnished look at a major celebrity facing a very serious legal situation.
That wraps up our briefing for today. Thank you for joining us as we navigate these complex stories. We will be back tomorrow with more updates. Have a safe day.